I am, of course, Michael Bain. Welcome to our Downrange weekly video, sort of our weekly video podcast thing. And yes, I am back from 2 weeks in South Africa, where I have been facilitating the Great Circle of Life. Now, what you're going to see today is a lot of things that you've already seen, but I want to give you a quick debrief of how well they worked in the field. And we'll also be covering very similar things on the Michael Bain audio podcast, Downrange Radio. So you're going to want to hear all that. Obviously, I don't want to give a lot of video away because we're there for shooting gallery. And you will see these 2 special episodes, I believe, into February 2019, somewhere right around in there. Anyway, let's talk about the gear we took to Africa. I took 3 rifles. I took this gun, which is a .44 Magnum Marlin. 1894, redone by Wild West Guns in Las Vegas. I took 4570 Marlin 1895 custom cowboy 16-inch barrel done by the Marlin, I guess it's the Remington Outdoor Company's Custom Center. I think that's the formal name now. And I also took, from the Custom Center, a Dakota bolt action 375 H&H. So let's talk about what we did with them. Let's talk about what worked. Let's talk about what didn't work. So first off with this guy, this is one of my favorite rifles in the world. Talked about it a lot. Now has a lot of rounds through it. And what I used it for in Africa was warthogs, pigs. They sort of view warthogs in Africa the same way that, say, people in Texas view feral hogs. They chew up ground. There's a lot of them. There's a zillion of them. And they make an excellent breakfast sausage. So there's always an encouragement to shoot warthogs. And early on, very first day, we out shooting with this gun, with this particular lever gun. I was loaded with double tap ammo. I don't have actually the ammo left. I left what I had remaining in South Africa. But Mike McNett sent me some .44 Magnum double tap ammo, basically 300 grain Nosler jacketed hollow point. That's what I was running out of this gun, sighted in at 100 yards. My shot on the hog was 197 yards, which is it's kind of a reach for a .44 Magnum, but the shot was a good shot. I held over about 3 inches on that shot. Then ran the gun really quickly, put the pig down, all of those kind of things. So I like this. It worked exactly as it was supposed to work, with an exception. And I thought I'd show you the exception. It's karma. This is the peep sight. It's got the armored peep sight. You'll notice what's missing in the peep sight. If you look closely, the peep sight is missing in the peep sight. It's on a little sled that slides up and down here in this track. It's very sturdy, and it's really kind of neat, and it should be really easy to keep it in place. It shot out. Oddly enough, we were able to find the sight, and we couldn't get it back together because it had been Loctited. The little adjustment screws had been red Loctited to death. And we didn't have a torch. We didn't want to mess with it. Besides which, I was shooting with a red dot on the gun. But I'm going to repair that. I'm going to make sure that it's something that doesn't happen again. And I said, we're using a red dot on the gun. This is the red dot we're using. We're using a Trijicon miniature rifle optic, 2 MOA dot, because a 2 MOA dot is about what you want for any kind of hunting endeavor. And I used it, basically, I mounted it a little far back. To do it again, I'm going to go forward. I might even go that far forward with the dot. I didn't actually like it this far back. It kind of inhibited my peripheral vision just a little. I'd go here. Easy peasy, not a big problem. The sight performed exactly as you would expect, perfectly. One of the things I did, and I suggest this to you because basically 2032 sights, the little round dot sights, are not particularly expensive. So the first thing I did when I got to Africa was I took out the sights, or took out the battery, and I replaced it with a new battery. I wiped it with a little alcohol to make sure everything was A-okay inside the battery housing, and then put in a new battery. Because, you know what, I don't care that it lasts 400 billion hours. I want it to start at A, because, again, we're taking it out in the field. So this is rifle number 1, and, I made a couple of decisions about this rifle. I liked it a lot, but man, there's cracks in the stock, the wood stock. That's nothing to do with Wild West guns. That's pure D Marlin. And I'm talking to Carlos Martinez, who was there with us, of course, from the Remington Custom Center. Carlos said, you know what, Michael? I know a guy who knows a guy. So I'm going to make a commitment to this gun to take it up a notch, because pretty soon I'm going to crack this stock off of it. I mean, there's cracks in it. It's going to break. You know, I wouldn't want to use this in a John Wayne Western, beat somebody over the head with it. But all in all, happy with the performance. You'll notice this big Velcro patch right here. That is part of a system designed by my buddy Richard Mann for VersaCarry. And so basically you get a couple of things. You get as many of these belt carriers as you want, and then as many of these ammo holders as you want. So you can have ammo on your hip here. You can also have ammo on the rifle. Now, Jason from VersaCarry came with us to Africa and was hunting with us in Africa, and we quizzed the heck out of him on the quality of this Velcro, or hook and loop, whatever you want to call it. He says it's the best in the world. We're really happy with it. All of us used it steadily over the 2-week period, and all of us had nothing but rave reviews for it. I don't even think it's up on their website yet, but it's a good product, and I think you're really going to like it. Let's get into the big gun, because I have a lot to talk about with the big gun. As I've said, you've seen this guy before, and boy, oh boy, is he beautiful. Once again, 1895 Marlin Cowboy 4570, fitted with a Skinner Express peep sight. And the Skinner Express peep sight has essentially a 3/8 inch rail running along the length of it. And we'll talk about that. Some of the changes I've made with it, I did a little extractor work, I did a little ejector work. The ejector is a bear-proof ejector from Wild West Guns. This screw that holds the bolt lever in, which by the way is critical to disassembling the gun if there's an issue, is also from Wild West Guns. And you see how it's all churned up and everything? That's because sometimes in the field you have to do ugly things to a gun. In loading it, I got stupid. I didn't quite pay attention to myself. There's what we call the dread Marlin jam. And I know how to clear that dread Marlin jam, which is take this out, take the lever out, poop, drop the bolt out, bullet drops out. It's not a big deal. It takes about 3 minutes. But better to have had this, because you know what we used a multi-tool to take that out. I will happily I'm actually going to buy a number of these screws, these knurl screws for it, and all of my Marlins are going to have those screws in them because it's just darn handy. I cannot say a word about how well this thing performed in the field. It performed flawlessly. It's the first day in Africa, we immediately took it to the range, and it was dead on, dead right there. I ran it with this. This is an Aimpoint Hunter. It's a 1x red dot sight. It's just 1x. There's no magnification in it, but it looks like this because Aimpoint thought that possibly hunters would be more willing to adopt something that actually looked like a scope, which has proven true over the years. This is a 2 MOA Hunter, and I mounted it using these special tally rings on this excess rail. Dead on, stayed solid. I fired 5 heavyweight rounds through it as soon as I got there. And these are the big boys. You know, we've talked about them before. These are buffalo bore. They are 430 grade flat nose hard cast bullets. Interesting thing, myself, Carlos Martinez, Richard Mann, all three of us hunting buffalo with lever action rifles, also our friend James, I believe every one of us ended up with this round, this buffalo bore 430 grain round, suggested by Tim Sundless at Buffalo Bore, and we have nothing but good to say about it. This is a devastating round. It works. It works absolutely. First time, every time. So I used 5 rounds to sight it in. I sighted in at 50 yards because I figured that was where I was going to need to be, and that did indeed prove correct. In the hunt itself, a couple of things. This Kirkpatrick leather on it, it's like, well, it's cowboy leather. We use it because it's got a little sticky suede on the back, and when you shoulder the gun, it tends to stay in this little crook, which is good. I also put in 2 roughly 8¼ inch, a little bit thicker sorbothane pads in it. It's not a true super deluxe recoil pad, but you'd be surprised at how much it helped. It helped a lot. And also shooting the gun in the field, when that guy is staring you in the face, you don't notice recoil at all. Not at all. In shooting it and actually taking it into the field, I fired a total of 4 shots on the hunt. All 4 of the shots would have been fatal. And first shot front-wise, roughly heart-lungs. Second shot, as the buffalo came out of the bush, came toward us, he bucked like a rodeo bull. Second shot was neck goes down to here, connects to the spine. It was right there on where that juncture is of the neck and the spine. It knocked the buffalo off his feet. Third shot, the buffalo came up a third time. Third shot was straight through the shoulders to break bones. Fourth shot was the anchor. I was able to run the gun quickly. I will say, and I absolutely believe this, and I'm willing to argue this, even with my good friend Larry Potterfield, that yes, a double rifle can get off a second shot faster than anything else in the world, but this gun is not far behind. Let me tell you why. First case, you actually have to reacquire a sight picture. It's not like you can go bang, bang. You got to have a sight picture because this can kill you. It can run over you. So it's not like I'm going to go bang, bang and just fire as quickly as I can pull the trigger. Bang, reacquire, bang. And this shines. This shines. You'll see on shooting gallery how quickly that second shot came. Second point is there's 5 shots in this tube, 1 in the chamber. That is like 6, which is like 3x, which you can get in a double rifle. And double what you can get in a bolt gun. So I can't speak highly enough of this rifle. It is not going back to the custom shop, frankly. I'm going to buy it, whatever it takes. I'll sell the car. It is the finest stalking rifle I have ever carried. A number of people have asked me for the specs on this gun because they would like to ask the custom shop to build them a duplicate. Carlos used the 24-inch custom barrel 4570. Richard used their modern Hunter, 16-inch camoed stock, Cerakoted, really cool looking gun. But 4570 delivered the goods. It was more than enough gun with an homage there to Robert Ruark. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Arms Corps, Rock Island Armory. What's your passion? Taurus, USA. Always ready, always bring it. Stoger, everyday tough. SDS Imports, Thesis. Thesis means quality. Hunters HD Gold. They change so you don't have to. And MTM Case Guard. Quality shooting sports accessories. Let me show you the third gun that, just briefly, because it's beautiful. And this is from Dakota. A 375 H&H, the great classic African caliber bolt gun. 3 shots there in a blind magazine. And the express sight up front. And of course we used, loaded with Barnes, the 375 H&H, Holland. I think one of these were also TSX. These are 300 grain TSX. This is the gun that Jeffrey Whalen, my dear friend Jeffrey Whalen, Fort Richmond Safaris, that's who Richard and I were with there in Africa. This is the gun he used to back Richard and I and Carlos up on the buffalo hunt. That's how much he believes in this gun. This is the gun he carried. He always carries it with open sights because if he has to use it, if things are happening very, very, very quickly. But this is kind of their hunter version. It's kind of the stripped down version of the Dakota. And you know, man, it's everything a bolt action rifle should be. And yes, as a matter of fact, you will pay for it. But these are the 3 rifles that I took. Those are the ammunitions that I used. The gear that I used, I borrowed a set of binoculars because I had weight issues on the way out. So I said, well, maybe I better do that. And the other thing I learned, it's an interesting point, we're getting down to it here, but I learned that I am quantums faster with a red dot than I am with either a peep or with a reticle. I did a lot of shooting with a Dakota number 10 single shot, falling block single shot, much like the Ruger number 1, and 7x57. That's 7mm Mauser, 275 Rigby. You pick it, it's a fun name. I used that on pigs. I found it to be an excellent gun, but for one thing, I was using a Swero 3-9, much like a Swero 3-9 that I have, and I was not as fast. When the gun comes up on a dot, I'm quick. And that's especially important if the target is moving. I find I can easily lead a dot. I find that when I go to a reticle, my brain wants to interpret a little more. Up, down, right, left, where are we? So it makes me a little slower on that. It's not a big deal on game animals that are standing still. Hi, shoot me. But on a moving animal, it's a toughie. So that at least gives you a quick knockdown, breakdown of everything that we did there in Africa. You're going to see it all on Shooting Gallery. Our great director of photography, Brooke Aiken, was there, captured absolutely everything. More than anything else, I want to thank Richard Mann and Jeffrey Whalen, and Jeffrey Whalen's family. Victoria, his wife, who's a great high-zoot pastry chef. Never hurts to have a pastry chef on safari. Anna Marie, Jeffrey's mother. Everybody there. When you go to Fort Richmond Safaris, you live with the family. You have your meals with the family. And I don't mean to sound cliched here, but you're a part of the family. They make you a part of the family. And to me, that is a unique experience. 7 generations of Whalens have been on that land. And Jeffrey guided his first client at 13. He's in his 30s now. An encyclopedic knowledge of the animals and the property that we're on. I've never had a better time. So if you're ever saying, oh, I want to do that first time trip to Africa, I can unconditionally recommend Fort Richmond Safaris. Look them up on the web. I'm Michael Bain, and we will see you next week.